So linear systems, this is what our test is going to be about. When you're making graphs, remember to label your axis X and Y. And a linear system is just a straight line. You need to be able to graph these, and the general equation is y is equal to mx plus b, where m is equal to the slope. Slope can be equal to rise over run, or it can be equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we can use this equation to find out the slope, right? And b is equal to the y-intercept. So this will be your b, and then you can have your m here. So that's a linear system. You need to be able to graph. There's several ways that you can graph. What you can do is, let's say that I'm given y is equal to 2x plus 1. One way that we could graph this is on my axis, I first start with the y-intercept. So when x is equal to 0, that's where it's going to cross the y-axis. And then from that point, the slope is 2. So I can go up to 1, 2, and over 1, because there's like a 1 there, right? And then you would use a ruler to connect it, and that's my graph. If my equation had a negative, that means that the slope's going down. So my graph, instead of going up 2, I would have went down to 1, 2, and over 1. This would be the equation y is equal to negative 2x plus 1. And this graph would be y is equal to 2x plus 1. So you need to be able to graph. We can use, there's actually a different methods. We can use the slope and y-intercept. We could also use a table. We could use a table of values where you have inputs and outputs. So I could choose, like when x is equal to 1, 2, and 3, or whatever. So when x is equal to 0 on this equation, the output is 1. When x is equal to 1, the output is 3. And I could be plotting these points, 1, and then when it's equal to 1, up here it's equal to 3, and then when it's 2, that's going to be 4, that's going to be 5. So you can, there's several ways to make a graph. Make sure you know how to do it. There's about 3 ways using these equations. Okay? Now, the idea with the linear equations is you need to find out the POI. The POI is equal to the point of intercept. And the point of intercept is when you have 2 linear equations. Okay? You have x and y, and we have two equations on that graph, okay? And the POI is the point that the 2 equations hit each other. Now there's several ways that we can solve for the POI. Number 1, we could make a graph. If I were to sketch the 2 equations and then I looked and I was able to identify that, that's equal to, for example, 4, 1. That's the point of intercept. Another way we can solve is through substitution or elimination. Substitution and elimination are different ways that you put one function into the other to find out the point right here. You want to find out the x and y location. Okay? With substitution, for example, I have 2 equations. Y is equal to 2x plus 1, and y is equal to negative 2x plus 1. What is the point of interception? Substitution is where you put one equation into the other equation and then you solve for your unknown. For example, 2x plus 1, I'm going to put this, and I'm going to put it in for the other variable. So this is going to be equal to 2x plus 1. And then you group these. So this, I'm going to minus, I want positive. So I'm going to add 2x here and add 2x here, minus 1, minus 1. So we're going to have 0 is equal to 4x. So we're going to get, divide by 4, we're going to get x is equal to 0. Okay. And then to find out the y, you need to take this and substitute it back into your original equation. So y will be equal to 2 times 0 plus 1, y is equal to 1. So therefore the POI is equal to 0, 1. Can you guys see that okay? Let me make it a little bit darker for you. Are you okay there? Do you guys have COVID? Hopefully not. Now,
I just got stuck by something.
Okay, that often happens. Now the other ways, so this is called substitution. And you can check. We can check to see if you're right. The way that we can check to see if you're right is we look at the left and right hand side, okay? So to check if you're right, if I have y is equal to negative 2x plus 1, is this the correct one? Well, what you do is you'd use those locations and you would substitute in here because this is called the left-hand side of the equation. And this is equal to the right-hand side. And if the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side, you are correct. So we would say, does 1 equal to negative 2 times 0 plus 1? Well, 1, and this equals 0, 1. Left-hand side, the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side, therefore it's right. Okay. Now, there's a faster way to do this, and that's through elimination. Elimination is a little bit different. Well, with elimination, you put your two equations underneath each other and you think, what can I do to eliminate one of these things? So either you could add or subtract, and if there's not a constant there, you could also do a multiplication in there as well. So in this case, we already have y as that. So if I subtract these, we're going to get 0y, and then I'm going to get 4x plus 1. And you'll see, subtract right here, we get this as 0 right here. We're going to get x is equal to 0. We get the same solution, and that's going using elimination. Okay? So you need to be able to solve for the point of intercept by using a graph, substitution, or elimination. Make sure that you review those. The other thing that we studied in this unit was to find out the length of a line and the midpoint. If I have two lines, I have A and B right here, and I want to find the midpoint. So the midpoint of your line, you can find the midpoint x comma y by taking the average x, because this is going to have x1, y1, and this is going to be x2, y2. So you can take the average of your midpoints here. So what you can do is just have x1 plus y1 divided. Let's wrote that down wrong. It's going to be x2 plus x1 divided by 2, y2 plus y1 divided by 2. So if I take the average of my 2 points, that's going to give me that midpoint there. Okay? So you need to be able to find the midpoint, and we also need to find out the distance. Okay? To find out the distance of that, we could use our Pythagoras theorem. It's the same idea because the distance if I want to find the distance equation, it's equal to the square root of the difference of your x's squared plus the difference of your y squared. This is our other equation that we need to know. And that will determine the length of a line segment. And then the very last thing that we studied was about circles. Circles is a type of an equation here as well. Now the general equation of that is if I have x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. That's the general equation, where r is equal to the radius. So you need to find out the radius here. If the radius was 5, the general equation, if the origin is 0, 0, the equation would be y is equal to, not y is equal to, but x squared, y squared, x squared plus y squared is equal to 25. That would be the equation for this circle right here. Okay. Now, if my equation is not in the 0, 0, you would have to add or minus the shift because you can actually move that around. Okay, and that equation will look like this. You have x plus or minus h squared plus y plus or minus k squared is equal to r squared. And so if my circle was up here, let's say, the middle of the circle is up here. Well, I'm going to the left. That means that you're going to have to do the opposite operation. The shift there, let's say it's 5. Okay, we're 5 units to the left. We're negative 5 on the x. Therefore, you're going to have, it would be x plus 5 squared. That means you're shifting to the left. And then if I'm going up, it's the opposite. If I add 5, you're going to have to minus 5. Let's say this is negative 5 comma 5 there. So you would have y, and if I want to shift him up, you're going to have to subtract 5. Okay? Because it's inside the bracket, so it's the opposite of what you think it is. And I believe the last thing that we found was, how can I know if a point is on the circle, outside the circle, or in the circle? And we can determine if a point is on. So I'm going to write it right here. Circle. We can know a point is on the circle because if x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, I'll put plus minus here, if that means it's on the circle. Okay, if it's equal to the radius, that means basically the distance. If the distance to that point is equal to the radius, it's on the circle. That makes sense. Inside, if the distance between my 2 points here, that dot, and the origin is less than r squared, it means that we're inside that circle. And then the last one was outside. And if it's greater than the distance from that point to it's bigger than the radius, then that's outside. Okay, so that's all the things that we study about linear lines. You should be able to graph, solve for it, midpoints, distance, and circles.